Hey, this is Leighton from Just Collect, and I'm here at the Philly Card Show, where there's just a tremendous amount of history. And I thought about this the last convention. Dan is someone I've known for a long time, and may Ted rest in peace, but that was his, kind of like his business / friend, partner in crime. And I really just wanted to make sure that, I don't know, Dan, this is really coming from the heart. I don't want to wait another show to not talk and really get this on record, because I feel like this is a very special story in regards to 1914 Baltimore News Cards, and with the Babe Ruth selling for what, $6 million or so in the last year.
It might have been 7.5 with the hammer.
Yeah, exactly, like a lot of money. I wanted to get on record for people who maybe can't come to conventions, aren't fortunate enough to have actually heard the story and met you in person. So if you could briefly tell the audience who you are and how long you've been collecting for, and a little bit about your dad, because obviously it plays a part of this story.
It does.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dan McKee. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I've been collecting 54 years. I started buying my first T206 cards in 1969 at like 10 cents and 25 cents a piece to put my set together. I was a 7-year-old kid, and for some reason I really liked the T206s. So my dad would help me collect. We put the sets together, and he would deal in the older cards that we would buy and sell to be able to afford our tops and Bowman.
We're at 25.
We need to stop.
25.
And one of the collections Dad bought had a Babe Ruth schedule card in it, like the 7.5 million. We at one time had two of the blue ones. In 1991, Dad sold the first one for $1,000, and in 1994 he sold our second one for $8,000. So that was $14 million gone.
Now, just to be clear, we're talking about, he actually bought this, and it was this weekend.
Yep.
Did you buy it from someone you knew?
I knew the guy, but I didn't know he was coming with it, so I kind of walked into the booth.
So you joke with me, we're not going to talk about what you paid for it, but you joke it's probably worth less. When you buy an example of a 1914 Baltimore News Card, does it pain you every time knowing like what could have been? Or you don't go backwards?
I try not to, but my poor dad made it to 92 and a half, and up until the end I used to pick one. And I used to say, Dad, how do you sleep at night knowing you beat that guy out of $1,000?
So to be clear, it sounds like Dan's father would have lived to 100, yeah, but Dan decided to really give him a good ribbon while he was alive, and he made it till 92. But the joking aside, for those that are out there, can you at least explain, forget about the significance of it today, but I want to know, what was the card like in 1991? Why was it, because 8,000 is still a lot of money.
Yeah.
But yet, you thought it was special, but not special enough to keep a second. Tell me about it.
Well, yeah, to be honest with you, I was younger then. I wasn't paying attention to my collection like I should have been.
Sure.
If it would have been now, I'd have had both of them.
Oh, of course you would have. Absolutely.
Because I have like 53 of the cards from the 3 different sets.
You could have 55.
Yep. But yeah, the card, nobody really knew what they were. They were schedules that were put in the newspapers to kind of advertise the teams, to get the people to come out. They put them in the newspapers in the spring of 1910 for the Eastern League Orioles, and then they did it again in 1914 for the International League Orioles that the Babe Ruth card is in. And Baltimore also had a team in the Federal League, which was the Baltimore Terrapins. So they have a set of those too. So they put them in those papers to get people out to the parks and stuff. It was pretty ingenious marketing, actually. But nobody really knew what they were. So, and they were only local to Baltimore. So I started kind of buying them and hoarding them, and they weren't a lot of money back then, but should have held on to the roots, blew that one.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned this last convention, and you said it again today, that no one really, not only they weren't that widely known, but I remember you saying something like this, at 8,000, it was almost as if someone was taking a chance, because it really wasn't an established card at that point.
It might not even have been considered a card at that point. And 8,000 was a decent amount of money back then.
To be fair, if anyone's 8,000 today that they don't want, you could just DM me anytime, it's all good. So the joking aside, do you feel that there's at least one more in the wild? Do you think that there's several more in the wild? And for those that don't know what I mean by the wild, that are out in, let's say, a barn or in a collection someone doesn't know what they have and they're ungraded. Do you think there's any more out there?
They're still in a row home attic.
Exactly.
Which where a lot of them have been found in those old row homes in Baltimore.
Sure.
So yes, I definitely think there are more out there. Now, you know the Babe Ruth card is the most common card out of all the 3 sets.
Well, that's a really important fact for everyone to know.
Correct.
How do you know that?
Well, we know there's like 10 or 11 of them, and I have most of all the other cards, and I
There
only
isn't
have
10 or 11 of any of
No,
them.
I have 3 of subs.
So what you're telling me is you're doing. You know that there is a Babe Ruth.
I'm overdue, but I'm getting penalized.
Well,
Yeah, I definitely think there's still more out there. We're still finding collections. I mean, I haven't found any out in the raw like that yet, but I keep looking.
before today, when is the last time you bought a raw, ungraded 1914 Baltimore News Card?
It was probably about 5 years ago out of a small auction on Auction Zip, and the company was in New York City. I was going to go up to get it, but they had a $150 or $200 guesstimate on it.
Which is perfect for you.
Well, it wasn't perfect because it cost me $6,500.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought maybe
Ed-
you wanted for a song. It
No,
didn't sound like
Ed, who just walked by here, he called me right after the auction. He goes, "Dan, this is Ed. I just want to let you know they didn't show bid you. I was the underbidder." And I'm like, "Ed,
what are you doing, Eddie? I would have split it with you.
right?" So when I called, I got a phone line for that auction. It was kind of funny, and the guy goes, "Oh, it's just $500." So I said, "No, stay on the line. Bid. We're getting into 1,000, 2,000."
You're like, "I don't care, bid."
And the guy's huffing and, "Oh my God, it's straight." I said, "Bid." He's huffing and puffing, and finally I won it at 6,500.
So, if you had to give one piece of advice, let me preface this with, we're both kind of card treasure hunters, even still.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thrill of
It is,
collecting.
absolutely,
Yeah.
totally agree. So,
That's the best
if
part.
we could share from your perspective one tip with someone who's watching today's video about how to find a fresh collection of cards that's vintage where they live, not necessarily a 1914 Baltimore News Ruth. What do you suggest they do? Advertise, talk to friends? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the best collections I just got a year ago, 15 minutes from my house. And it was from an 84-year-old gentleman that took the cards out of packs. And it was all early 50s tops and Bowman, and it was beautiful. There was some tobacco in there and Gowdy's. It was the whole family's, all the eras.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was
And how did he
15
find you?
He found me from his son found me on Facebook. So yeah, you advertise, you put the word out that you're buying cards the best way you can. I mean, I even put up things in grocery stores, little flyers.
Oh,
You
listen, I have no shame. I will put it anywhere and everywhere as far as this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for. But I think he brings up a really good point. You know, people look at, let's say, your booth or my booth, and they might say, well, Dan, you have a lot of cards. They don't realize we've been doing this for decades.
Oh, yeah.
And it's literally all we think about almost 7 days a week.
Yep. Oh yeah, and the long hours I put into it too. Yep.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me today and kind of giving a little bit of hobby history on really one of the most iconic cards of the last 100 or so years.
It is. It's
And
really
you not only had
exploded.
one of them, you had 2 of them.
And 2 blues.
And I'll tell you, this is what I love, Dan, and why I really chose to do today's video. I'm sure you have ups and downs, but you're always smiling at the convention.
I try.
Same thing here. I really appreciate your time.
Leighton, a pleasure, buddy. Thank
Dan.
you.
Appreciate it.